Give us just a second. As we're getting this set up, we are going to have communion at the end of the service, right after my teaching concludes, or as part of the teaching. And it's open to everybody, so you don't have to be a crosswalker to be a part of it. We're gonna do it a little different this week. It's going to be in tinction style, which we used to do quite a lot until COVID hit. What that means is you're going to come forward. I've asked Angela Barker-Jackson to help me out with this, and you'll take a little cracker and you'll dip it in a bowl full of juice, and you'll hear us say some nice things, and then you can go right back to your seat. So that's what's coming. You can get ready for that. And I also want to let you know, for other Enneagram 5s other than just Lauren in the house, who I knew would immediately begin researching this stuff. All this stuff that I put on my slides is on the screen, as well as a link to this book, which I highly recommend that you get. It's a very short little book, and it has the Aramaic with some descriptions about what's going on. It's a great meditative book. It also goes into some other parts of Jesus' teaching a little bit later on. It's worth your $8 or whatever it is. And if you want to play around a little bit, I will feature this in coming weeks, but the Lord's Prayer sung in Aramaic is widely available on YouTube, and there are a couple renditions that are pretty amazing. They don't sound like American music at all. They sound very Middle Eastern, which they should, right? So we'll feature some of that coming up, but I encourage you to go deep on it. It's very interesting, and at least I think it's very interesting. So here we go. First, we're going to start a little bit more on this whole first part, because I'm cramming 2 chapters into one. So by the end of today, we're done with chapter 31 in this book, which we're borrowing from in our year-long pursuit through following the call, we're living out the Sermon on the Mount. And so I want to talk just briefly about this first phrase, Abum Dwash Maya. Have any of you ever had a truly countercultural experience? Maybe you've gone to a different country that you didn't look like. I'm the only one, apparently. All right, yes, thank you very much. All right. Or even a different part of the United States where it's just a very different culture. Not necessarily the skin tone, but a very different culture. If you've ever been to the Deep South, I think you will find that is a different culture. If you go to New York City, different culture. Go to Seattle, different culture. The Bay Area, even though it's California, is different than the Central Valley, and its culture is different than LA as a whole, right? These things, when you get into them, you know that you're not home anymore, and you experience things differently. When you're thrust into an environment where you don't know the language and you don't look like anybody around you, that can be both exhilarating and thrilling, and incredibly anxiety-producing at the same time. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah. One thing that is not so exciting is after you get married, you find out your spouse has their own family system that they grew up in, and it's not like yours. Sometimes it works out great. I lucked out. My in-laws, wonderful people, very similar background as my family and family systems. So it was pretty smooth sailing for the most part. But I've known people that I've tied the knot for, and it can be very different. About a year ago or so, I married a couple down south, and friends of our family, and he came from a very reserved family where voices were never raised. There was very little conflict, pretty sedate, you know. She came from a very expressive family. Talked with their hands and their volume, and it would be very normal for voices to get raised and escalate and all this, and yet they all loved each other and got along somehow. It's a very different thing. So when we're doing the premarital stuff, when I'm doing the premarital stuff with them and kind of working them through, kind of set them up and ask questions along the way, it was very clear he did not know what to do because everything in him when he was seeing this experience was, this is Armageddon right here. I think it's all going to fall apart right now because he'd never experienced anything like that in his family. And meanwhile, from her perspective, she's like, I think the whole family is comatose. They're not expressing anything. Do these people have any life whatsoever in them? So those kinds of things can mess with us. Well, we deal with a very different culture. This isn't brand new information, but I remind you that Jesus did not grow up in the Bay Area. He did not grow up in America with our American sensibilities. We are a Western nation. And when we talk about Western sensibilities, we're talking about a culture that had as its bedrock Greek culture, Greek thinking, Greek logic and philosophy. That's what shaped the way we think about everything. And so when it comes to God, we think our way into God. We make it a brain thing about God. We want to make logical sense of our theological arguments. That's our bias toward that. And the entire Western world is shaped that direction. But Jesus did not understand or know much about the Western world, because ancient Judaism, and still to a degree present-day Judaism and its different reflections, is an Eastern religion. It does not mean that it's an unintellectual religion at all, but what it does mean is that it leans into other ways of knowing and being in the world, not just the intellectual side. So that meditation I led you through may have driven some of you absolutely bonkers, because you can't think, how in the world does ab wound do anything for me today? Thanks for wasting all that time, Pastor Pete. But you've missed the point, because we're not supposed to think our way to it. We're supposed to let the Word itself take us somewhere else. So when we think about our Father who art in heaven, even that phrase, we think, got it. Father, heaven, let's move on. But what if in the ancient Aramaic, an Eastern tradition who leaned into story and metaphor, what if they thought about just that one phrase wildly differently? Might it change our perspective on the prayer itself if we could get inside the head of Jesus and his contemporaries? That's what this little book does. And so that one phrase, this scholar in ancient Aramaic language gives us a range of way of thinking about what this might mean. This is one of them. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. I love that he included the feminine in this, because even in the Jewish tradition, there is a massive voice of the divine feminine within the Jewish tradition that somehow male-led religion has sort of squashed for some odd reason. I'm not sure why, but there it is. Here's another way that this line can be translated within Aramaic. O thou, the breathing life of all, creator of the shimmering sound that touches us. Or how about this one? Respiration of all worlds, we hear you breathing in and out in silence. We talk about viewing God as panentheistic, that all is in God. And this sort of gets at that when we are breathing with God, that God is the very breath that we are breathing. Your brain cannot figure that out, but your breath can. How about this one? Source of sound, in the roar and the whisper, in the breeze and the whirlwind, we hear your name. Sounds kind of mystical, doesn't it? Radiant one, you shine within us, outside us. Even darkness shines when we remember. Remember, it was Jesus who taught the disciples how to pray, starting with Abba, loving dad, loving parent from heaven. And it was that love that won people over. And again, I remind you that even one of Jesus' followers said, behold, what manner of love our Abba has given unto us, that we should be called the children of God. If we had a little more time and felt a little campy, there's even a camp song that's sung at many Baptist churches about this. Behold what manner the Father has given. Anyway, I want to go that. We could even make it around, but we won't do that today. So this just gives you an entrance into just the idea of what this Hallowed represents. And I hope that alone, and seeing these different expressions of what that first line could be, will get you wondering, which of these did Jesus most resonate with? Or did Jesus resonate with all of them at different times? When he was up in the wilderness, was the sound of the wind speaking Abba to him? When he was in a desperate place, was he experiencing more of that loving mother-father image? And then I wonder for you, which of these phrases seem to jump out at you like, oh, that one somehow resonates with me? Because it's going to be more in your heart than in your head. The second line goes, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. When I started to read about what hallowed means, I thought about this scene. This is simply entitled Isaiah 6 by Dolores de Velde, and this is a digital piece of artwork. If you're not familiar with Isaiah chapter 6, it's a remarkable passage. Early on in the prophet's life, it's where the prophet becomes the prophet. And he has this vision of heaven, and God is on God's throne, and the hem, or the train of his robe, fills this, celestial temple, and there are angels flying around singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who is and was and is to come." I mean, it's just this incredible scene. And when Isaiah has this epiphany, this moment, he immediately shudders in fear, because everything that he's been told as a Jewish man is that if you experience God face to face in all of God's holiness and you are not holy, you're a goner. You're dead. So as he's recalling this experience, he even says, I said to myself, woe is me, because I am a man with unclean lips. He thinks he's done. And then one of the angels comes with a coal and touches his lips to purify him. And it worked. Eventually, this God in this vision says, who will go before me? And Isaiah says this famous phrase, here am I, Haneni. Here am I, send me. But it's that vision of heaven, that hallowedness, that holiness that I want to play with for a moment. And I'm wondering, what does it mean for you to say, hallowed be thy name? What does that even mean? Well, the Greek word hagios gives us this idea. The root Greek word, refers to something holy, transcendent, set apart, wholly different. And hallow means to honor as holy. So I'm wondering for you, what do you honor as holy? And if you think you don't, I've got news for you. You do. Lynn and I moved out here in 1999 from the Kansas City area, actually Chicago, but we both were raised in the Kansas City area, and both of us were trained up on Kansas City Royals baseball, who more of you are familiar with now than you were a week ago, because Mike Yastrzemski, who is having a terrible slump, is traded to the Royals, and what does he do with his first swing of the bat as a Royal? He hits a 2-run home run. Where were you, Mike? You might not be with the Royals if you'd have done that a couple more times. But anyway, that was a hard one to see Mike Yastrzemski go. I liked him a lot. Well, somewhere around 2010, after our kids were old enough to kind of fend for themselves a little bit and didn't require the same level of care, which meant we as the parents had a little more time on our hands, Buster Posey started to come up the ranks. And we got real interested in what he was doing, and along with it, Giants baseball. Now, my wife grew up with her dad every Sunday afternoon watching Royals baseball. The only person I know here, there might be one more, who can go toe-to-toe with my wife on baseball and even win some kind of a contest, Trivial Pursuit on Giants baseball is Lauren Haas. He's the only one I know that knows more than my wife about baseball in general and the Giants specifically. We have become Giants fans. We go to several games a year, try to. We watch the games, as many as possible, on TV. My wife has them recorded, so if she wants to get on her treadmill, nothing's on, she can watch the game and get her steps in all at the same time. The Giants are hallowed in the Shaw household. There is one team that we don't talk about in the Shaw household. We don't mention the name of that team, if at all possible. Do any of you know what team I'm talking about? Why did you say it out loud in a house of God? I just told you. This is a hallowed space, and you just blurt it out there like nobody cares. Come on. But we have this. We didn't care about Dodgers one way or the other. I just said it. We didn't care about the team that shall not be named many years ago. We knew who they were. We didn't love them a lot because they won too much, in our opinion, along with the Yankees, another team that shall not be named. But now we are. We hallow the name of the Giants. And also the San Francisco 49ers, when we're not hallowing more the Kansas City Chiefs because of our heritage. Some of you, it may not be sports at all. It might be some kind of a celebrity. We all know that our favorite band for Crosswalk Community Church is U2. We've already established that. It's somewhere in our bylaws, I think. Because that's my favorite band, and I can't stop talking about Bono and The Edge and Larry Mullen and Adam as much as I could. But there's a whole other thing, a whole other generation of folks that call themselves Swifties. And Taylor Swift made a gargantuan, obscene amount of money with sold-out shows all around the world. She has so much power in her brand. She can elevate or eliminate politicians. She can kill brands. She can shift the cultural dialogue. She can increase football ticket sales because she's in a very deep relationship with Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. It's incredible. And for some people who are Swifties, you don't cross them when it comes to Taylor Swift. You don't tell them any negative thing about Taylor or you're going to get it. You know any Swifties out there? I don't know what your thing is. I don't know what you hallow. You're an American. I think most of you here are citizens and probably proud to be Americans, I would guess. I'm proud to be an American. In our country, we hallow our flag. We hold it up and we worship our flag in strange ways because we have that flag printed off somewhere, probably by child labor in a distant country, so that we can get a t-shirt for $5 to wear it in time for July 4th, even though our own Constitution says you shall not market the flag itself. That's in there. Did you know that? We're not supposed to do that. So we love the flag, but we also kind of defile it in certain ways. In our country, we love our freedom, for those who have it. In our country, we hallow our military. We hold them up as holy. That's what we mean when we're talking about holy, setting apart. They have place. You don't talk against that without getting in trouble, without ticking you off. But here's some other ways from the Aramaic that we might think about this. By the way, here's another phrase that will just roll off the tongue. Neth Kadash Shamaka. Everybody say, Neth Kadash Shamaka. Yeah, we're already there. All right. Well, this is one way of thinking about that. Focus your light within us. Make it useful as the rays of a beacon show the way. Help us breathe one holy breath, feeling only you. This creates a shrine inside, a wholeness. Help us let go, clear the space inside of busy forgetfulness, so the name comes to live. I don't think any American needs that one. All of us don't need to hear this. Help us let go, clear the space inside of busy forgetfulness. We all struggle with that. Here's a couple more. Your name, your sound can move us if we tune our hearts as instruments for its tone. So again, your brain is not going to make any sense of this. This is not an intellectual thing. This is an experiential thing. There is a tone of the Spirit of God. Hear the one sound that created all others. In this way, the name is hallowed in silence. In peace, the name resides. a room of one's own, a holy of holies, open, giving light to all. In the ancient Jewish temple, there was a space called the Holy of Holies, and it was behind a veil, and regular folk weren't allowed to go in there. And the people who would go and make prayers for the people and offer their offerings and whatnot for them, I'm told that they would even tie a rope around your leg, because there was a fear that if somehow you had unconfessed sin or you were not quite as holy as you needed to be to go into the Holy of Holies, you might just drop dead. And nobody would want to go fetch you, so they put a rope on you to drag you out just in case. That's how seriously they took the holiness of God. It's fascinating. And finally, we all look elsewhere for this light. It draws us out of ourselves, but the name always lives within. These are mysterious phrases. I wonder which one meant the most to Jesus at what time. Because I bet all of these and more were going through his mind as he simply said that one line that we so quickly blow past in our memorized prayer, "Hallowed be thy name." But there was a bigger vision, not just for the holiness of God, but there was this vision that the people of God would also be holy. And so we see this in a New Testament letter called 1 Peter, which may or may not have been written by the Peter that we know and love. It could have been one of his followers or disciples. But he echoes this from Deuteronomy. You will be holy because I am holy. Because God is holy, and another way to think about that is whole, complete. The word perfection shows up, but a better word for that is mature. And so as we are becoming perfect, it's more about maturity. He goes on to say, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people who are God's own possession. Now, again, I want to be careful with this, and I want to remind you of our American bias, that because we are very proud Americans of our very strong country, when we say similar words like this about America, we're like, yeah, we are. We're super tough. That's who we are because we're Americans. And we rule the world because we're Americans, right? That's how we think. But you need to understand that the opposite would have been the tone for those people, those Jesus followers who would be reading this letter, because they're on the run. They're on the outs with Judaism by this time. They're in trouble with the Roman Empire. They feel like they're going to get squashed like bugs at any second. But this letter comes out to the churches, and it's saying, you're to be holy as God's holy, because God is holy. You are a royal priesthood. He's reminding them of something that they could hardly believe. We in our arrogance get there like that because we're arrogant in our culture. Not them. They've got no business ever dreaming of this. But this writer, who's been so captivated by the love of God and its implications, voices that. So, you might have noticed that there's more to say. You will be holy because I am holy. You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people who are God's own possession. You have become this people so that... I wonder what's next. I would guess that if we just did a general poll, not of what people would say or think, but of what this might be, and proven by a lived out representation of American Christians, how would this verse end? I think for most American Christians it would be, you have become this people so that you might have inner peace. Or so that you might know that you're forgiven so that you can go to heaven. Or so that you might know that you have the right religion and people who don't have what you have are toast. Now, I don't think anybody would necessarily say that with their mouths, but I think they live it with their lives. And the proof's coming up in another verse. What does he say? How does this end for Peter? He says, you have become this people so that you may... Oh, did I do it for you yet? Here we go. Yeah, it is. You have become this people so that you may speak of the wonderful acts of the one who called you out of darkness into his amazing light. This echoes Deuteronomy, which was one of the core books of ancient Judaism, where the writer says this: Yet the Lord set his heart in love on your ancestors alone, and chose you, their descendants after them, out of all the peoples, as it is today. Now again, this isn't for them to feel arrogant, this is for them to feel cherished. That's the whole tone of this, because they couldn't believe that they were. Circumcise then the foreskin of your heart, cut it off, and do not be stubborn any longer. So apparently they've been stubborn as the people of God. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who is not partial and takes no bribe. I gotta find out where I am here. Hold on a second. I know you're dying to know what's next. Here we go. Who executes justice for the orphan and the widow. Who is this? Wait a minute. Oh, this is God talking. Oh, this is the great God, mighty and awesome, who's not partial and takes no bribe. What does this God do? What is this God about? Who executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and who loves the strangers, providing them food and clothing. You shall also love the stranger, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall revere the Lord your God. Him shall you serve. To him you shall hold fast. And by his name you shall swear. And it ends, he is your praise. He is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things that your eyes have seen. And what kinds of things did God do? He took care of the orphan and the widow and the stranger. I wonder how many Christians know that this is the heartbeat of God in our country right now, where we're trying to get rid of strangers and we're trying to eliminate resources for the poorest of the poor in our country. And I wonder if we, as people who have been captivated by the love of God, if we might start proclaiming this again, that this is the heartbeat of God. This is what God has been up to, and this is what God invites us to do. And maybe doing things other than that, or maybe not doing this at all, might mean that we have other gods that are more hallowed than the great God spoken of in Deuteronomy. Well, there are a couple amazing quotes. Will Willimon and Stanley Hauerwas are incredibly brilliant scholars, and they offer this: the Lord's Prayer is like a bomb ticking in church, waiting to explode and demolish our temples to false gods. It may have slipped past you, but anytime you make a statement like, "Holy be your name," you have made a revolutionary claim that promises to land you in the middle of conflict, maybe even war, or at least good trouble. It is commonplace to hear God's name taken in vain today, though it may well be blasphemy. Saying "God damn" may not be the greatest blasphemy against the name of God. The German soldiers who went into battle in World War II bearing "Gott mit uns," God with us, on their helmets are a greater blasphemy to the holy name of God. To invoke the name of the free, mighty God as patron of our causes is to take the name of God in vain. Willimon and Hauerwas both wonder, is it ever appropriate for the President of the United States to make such an audacious claim as "God bless our troops"? Where is our allegiance? What do we call holy? Of course, the problem isn't that, we don't want God to protect our troops. That's not it. We want all people, to be well, and our troops do help peace along in many ways. It's some of those other things that we're not quite sure that God would bless in the first place, but this calls into question, what do we hallow? And it's a very easy step for us to take, that if we say, God with us on our war helmets, that we will assume that what we do is already blessed by God because we've asked God to do that. That, then, gives us the logical license to do whatever we want, knowing that God surely must be with us. And there is the problem, where God is supplanted by something else that is not God. A Catholic priest and liberation theologian said this: "We are not sanctifying the name of God when we erect church buildings, when we elaborate mystical treatises, or when we guarantee his official presence in society by means of religious symbols. His holy name is sanctified only to the extent that these expressions are related to a pure heart, a thirst for justice, and a reaching out for perfection, or, as I would say, maturity. It is in these realities that God dwells. These are his true temples, where there are no idols." Origen said well, and commenting on this supplication of the Lord's Prayer, "They who do not strive to harmonize their conception of God with that which is just take the name of the Lord God in vain." In other words, when we say and do things that are not born or reflective of shalom, we have taken the name of the Lord in vain. Because God is defined as shalom, peace, love, well-being. When I hear all this, it makes me wonder, where do I stand on all this? And got good news and bad news for you. The good news is, I'm not going to belabor this much longer, so we're almost done. The bad news is these kinds of questions and things we're thinking about what do we hallow, what do we call holy, and therefore what are we emulating because we often emulate that which we call holy. How is that playing out in your life on a daily basis? How is it real in your life? Because it is at work. And, our old brains that are wired in that fear-based tradition, which is alive and well within Christianity, which is saying, you better or else, which gives us the idea of God as judge on the throne, just ready to, hit the gavel to our demise. That rings so loud in our head and makes our lizard brain go nuts. Keeps us in line. But that's not our motivation. Our motivation is what Jesus had to say, which is not God as this mean old judge that's just waiting to wipe you out, but God is your loving parent. God is the essence of your being. It is the embodiment of love. That is who is at your core. So therefore, when we think about our motivation for doing anything, for me, it really is something that is born from within, and something that is called from without. It's like when I have those moments, and I bet you do too, when you have those moments when you are really clear on the love of God for you, not in an arrogant way, but a humbling, healthy kind of way, do you know what I'm saying? That you are truly and deeply loved at your core. When you're in those moments, you smile. You are filled with joy and peace and strength, and you probably might even say something about it. You might be alone in your car and singing a song that sort of gives you this vehicle to do that, but I bet you do something. And others of you are painters, some of you are poets, some of you do things with your hands to help other people. They're all expressions, all born from this love within. And yet sometimes, like when we read about God's work in Deuteronomy, and we hear about what God is wanting to do in the world, and then we watch the news and we see how much mess there is abroad and very close to home. If we are so filled with the love of God, and if God is truly hallowed in our life, we are compelled and impelled to do something. Not because we feel like if we don't, we're going to be in trouble, but because we have to do something. And part of our angst is we're not quite sure what that something is. But there's something everyone can do. That is, wherever you are, wherever you go, you have the choice to sow fear and hatred and anger. Or you have the choice to sow shalom, to sow it. As Brian and his lyrics in the songs that he sang, you got to seed this thing. And you are given that invitation because it's been fostered in you. So we come to a time of communion. And with communion today, we remember. We remember what was taught us just from these two lines in the prayer. That the character and nature of God is loving and supportive. And that this is one who is to be hallowed, and the best way to show that we hallow this name is to live hallowed lives. You may remember, if you read the book or saw the movie, that when Jesus died on the cross, that veil in the temple, which separated the ordinary, everyday people from the Holy of Holies, was ripped in two. It has never been mended. In the Christian tradition, we recognize that because of the very good news of Jesus, we know we're loved. We know we're all welcomed at the table. We're reminded that the Holy One is within us. And as we take and eat this, literally taking it in, as we remember, God is with us. God is in us as we taste and crunch. God is in us. The Holy One is within us. We're reminded to be holy as God is holy. So I invite Angie to come help me out with this. We're going to stand on either side of the stairs and just welcome you to come, and we're going to say this phrase right back to you. And all you got to do, it's not complicated, is take a cracker and dip it in the juice and eat it after we say our thing. And I will invite you to do this. But first, let's pray together. God, as we prepare to come and remember who you are, and as we remember who you are, we remember who we are, that you are holy love. And you have chosen to reside within us, calling us your very children. May we own that in a new way today, not in an arrogant Western way, but in a deeply humbled, loved kind of way. And may the love that you have bestowed on us and revealed to us, may it cause us to choose to be holy as you are holy. More and more well, more and more whole, more and more mature, reflecting the very Spirit that resides within us. May it be so. Amen. Come forward and take communion. Behold, what manner of love our Abba has given to us, that we may be called the children of God. May you go as God's kids into the world to bring the goodness and love of God wherever you go. Thanks for being here today. See you next week.